We are live. Producer Xander caught me off guard today. Welcome to today's episode of MicroConf On Air. I'm your host, Rob Walling. I'm used to the background music playing. We're switching it up, shortening the intro. So every other Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, we live stream for about 30 minutes. And we cover topics related to building and growing ambitious SaaS startups that bring us freedom and purpose and allow us to maintain healthy relationships. Thanks so much for joining me again today. We are going to be diving into a founder spotlight with Phil McCarty. He's the founder of PPC Profit. And I will be getting some background. He's a member of MicroConf Connect, a member of the MicroConf community. And so we're going to learn more about what he's up to. And I'm also going to go into, advice mode to get out of Phil, where he wants to take the business and offer kind of, if I were in his shoes, here's what I would do next type of stuff. So Phil has been making software for Amazon sellers for the past 5 years. He's a founder of PPC Profit, and I should have asked him for pronunciation of this one, Amachete, which I'm assuming is Amazon Machete, Amachete. So PPC Profit is his current focus, and as far as he knows, he was the first person to generate accurate sales data for Amazon Japan. He spent the last 3 years developing PPC Profit, having attended a few events and learned that his target market wasn't really looking for the solution he was building. So he launched the current iteration of his product earlier this year, focusing on agency clients, and he has been slowly ramping it up since then. So with that, let me welcome at Phil McCarty on Twitter. Welcome him to the show. How's it going today, Phil?
Great. How's it going, Rob?
It's good, man. Yeah, it's good to have you on the show. Thanks for joining me.
That was such a nice intro. As you're going through it, I was like, this Phil guy, he sounds like someone I should know. He sounds
I really want to be friends with
him.
this guy. Exactly. And that's the founder spotlight, because when people see you in MicroConf Connect, or if they see you, once we're back doing in-person MicroConfs, they can come up and say, I know you, and I want to talk about PPC Profit.
And I'll say, have we met? I'll do that awkward thing where I can't remember their name, and it'll be great.
Yep. And that's why whenever I meet anyone out in the wild, I say, it's a pleasure to see you, because if I say meet you and I messed it, that we met before. And if I say see you again, that it's great to see you. And it's like, it covers both bases.
Taking notes already. This is a great advising session already.
Awesome. So talk to me about PPC Profit and what it does. Describe for me the workings of it and the value it provides.
Okay, absolutely. If you are a person who manages advertising spent on Amazon for other people primarily, which there are a number of these people, who knew, a good portion of your day will be spent essentially converting the data that they are generating in their business and either managing it for them and or presenting it to them, right? Or kind of keeping an eye on it. So like monitoring, managing, whatever, right? PPC Profit is a platform which is built to facilitate those three kind of like job tasks, right? It's to help you spend less time doing kind of like the things that computers are built for, monotonous, repetitive things like generating reports or keeping an eye on ad spend or monitoring ACoS performance or identifying potential. Is this too in the weeds and woods? Is this too in the weedy woods? Do I need to kind of like back out and explain Amazon advertising on a large
scale? Amazon advertising is fine. I mean, that's for people who they have a physical product. I actually run Amazon advertising for my book, Start Small, Stay Small, and it's just me, right? I'm not an agency. So I think people get that. So it sounds like creating reports for clients, because you focus on agencies who run Amazon PPC for other people who pay them to do it. And so reports is one element of it. Is it the second piece is monitoring ad spend, and is the third piece like the research and the actual, the keyword research piece of it?
I'm technically, I guess you could say there's 4 parts. So yes, the keyword research, because it's sort of impossible to manually monitor all the kind of different opportunities that arise as a result of your success or failure in your PPC maintenance. And we also do an automation. I say we because I'm used to trying to sound bigger than we also do an automation kind of rules-based thing to automate the management of campaigns. So it's
right.
Those 4 pieces technically.
Okay, cool. And the team is just you, is that right?
Just me.
Solo, fully bootstrapped. And are you willing to talk about revenue, or can we give a range of where you are?
Yeah,
an idea?
absolutely. Well, hold on. Let me, before I answer the question, is there, as the person who's giving me advice now, is there a good reason not to?
I don't think so. Especially at this point, given how early you are, I don't think it's not like everyone who you're trying to sell to is watching this. I mean, the only reason not to do it usually is if you're killing it, you'll invite competition. And if you're not killing it, then, and your potential customers are watching it, they think, oh, maybe he's going to go out of business, right? Those are usually the big drawbacks. I don't think either of
Okay.
those is going to happen on this.
Okay. Okay. Right on. That sounds good. Sounds reasonable to me. Yeah, we're still so early that it's too hard to say whether. Wait, I gotta stop doing that. I am still so early. It's an interesting pivot. I'm still so early that I'm not. It's too hard to say. But soft launch in March, and essentially from one Facebook post in a group of about 100 people, about 10 or people signed up from that group post, and I'm currently doing just around 3,000 a month in recurring revenue
Cool. Good for
from
you.
that one post.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you had much churn?
Zero churn.
Zero churn. Okay. And do you have any other marketing going on or anything on your radar that you're going to start?
No, well, not yet. So after that, that soft launch, and we got like a ton of users with an average, price per user of 300 about a month. I discovered a number of things that kind of made those first 10 sort of high touch clients, right? Like I had to like answer questions and and in kind of like logging the friction points and the pain points. Um, I just got a text message from a friend saying that I need to speak louder. Thanks, friend. Uh, Thank you, Joey. Learned that essentially there's a lot of documentation that needs to take place. There are a few features that if I don't document them a little more efficiently, the next 20 users would drown me. So Xander asked in our initial meeting, like, how many users do you want to pick up in June? And I was like, none, absolutely zero. I don't want any new users because I need to sort of like patch up the holes in this ship a little bit.
Put the brakes on a bit. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Onboarding and early access stuff is always such a huge um, curve. Are there any major features right now that you've left out, that were left out is not the right phrasing, but that are not in PPC Profit that you feel like need to be in as soon as possible? Or for now, is it onboarding, then get more people and build those as you have time?
I'd say onboarding is more important than any additional features. And the reason I say that is because I spent the better part of the last few years kind of like feature creeping myself.
Mhm.
If I were a boss, I'd be the worst boss ever. I would constantly give myself new features to like, hide behind, like, oh, we can't
Mhm.
launch until this. That said, there's probably, I have a kind of a clear roadmap of what the next couple features are. And the next one, without going too deep into it, right now it is fairly difficult to see the value of the platform. I don't know if I put quotes on it. It's actually value, no quotes. To see the value of the platform without actually linking your accounts and bringing your customers' accounts and blah, 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 blah. There is an easier, less frictiony value of that where a person kind of drag and drop some of the existing data points that Amazon provides in a file. And you could see sort of like this is what it would look like if you were using this platform. And it would be nice to give people that are not quite ready to go through the process of like syncing up their Amazon API, blah, 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 where they can just sort of like in 30 seconds say like, I do or don't like this. Do you know what I mean? I
Yep.
think
Yeah.
that would be help. That's the feature that I feel like I would want to do next.
Yep. Okay. That makes sense. All right. So I want to drop into advice mode a little bit. So if you want
By
to
all
view the
means.
website, it's getppcprofit, PROPHET.com, getppcprofit.com. So when I go to this website, I know what Amazon sponsored ads are, and I don't think I can share my screen. Let me see.
Oh no, it's going to be a landing page gutting. I didn't plan for this. Oh, the landing page
It's
is so
it's
terrible.
It's not even that. Yeah. So first of all, yeah, I do think the landing page could communicate it better, but I think the bigger issue is not the copy or the structure of the landing page. The bigger issue
Okay.
is it looks to me like you have three separate products. Is that right?
Yeah.
Three separate products,
That's
three separate subscriptions.
yeah. Essentially, that's right. Was there a
That's
follow?
that feels like a red flag to me.
Yeah, and
For example, if you applied to Tiny Seed today, the first thing I would tell you is either combine them into one product or get rid of the two that aren't making money and just focus on one. Just dump two of them or merge them all into the same code base and have this be feature gating. So you have a single subscription, and people can be at different tiers based on usage or based on feature needs.
Okay, I mean, essentially that's what I'm aiming for. Because yeah, I agree that there's. I just realized I was doing the thing where a person hears feedback and they instantly go, yeah, but, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah, no.
That's what I'm actually trying to implement on some level is, because in the marketplace, there's a lot of our competitors, my competitors, I will never stop doing that. A lot of my competitors, they've got kind of like highly inflated prices, right? Like it's $1,000 a month or 5% of your revenue or that kind of thing. So I thought an interesting way to sort of compete would be to build sort of a modular platform, right? So, and I guess it'd be interesting to hear your take on what's the difference between a modular platform and a platform with tiers. But the idea would be that, if you want feature X, you can subscribe to this. If you want feature Y, you can subscribe to feature Y. You don't have to do them all together. And I guess on some level you could tier them, but for me, the idea of a tier, it gives me the impression that you have this as a foundational feature set and you stack on tiered, as opposed to kind of a more individually segmented plans where you can like A or B or C as opposed to A and B and C, right?
Right. Yep.
And right now in my user base, it's pretty evenly split. Like there's some people that want A and some people want B, and there's a lot of people that definitely don't want all of the above, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And
Xander,
my most recent client, go ahead.
Xander, you were showing the screen there, but that was one of the landing pages for an individual product. If you go back to the root of getppcprofit.com, you'll see it's 3 separate cards in essence. And as you click on each one, it feels like you go to 3 different SaaS apps with 3 different pricing models and 3 different, I'm assuming, is it 3 different Stripe accounts? Or if I've signed up for one, is it just one click to activate the other?
Yeah, it's just one Stripe account. And because Stripe was nice enough to kind of make it easier to have different plans or products in your subscription. So it would be one Stripe bill for all 3 of the things you've signed up for.
Got it. So I think the challenge that I'm seeing is the something that kills entrepreneurs or kills their products is lack of focus. And the approach you're taking here means you're trying to market 3 separate things. So if you go out and try to do SEO and try to do content marketing and try to do whatever social media marketing, we have split our terms across 3 separate tools in essence. Am I reading that right? Yeah. And that's when, so I've seen folks here, I'll give you an example, and you're not doing this exactly, but a friend of mine runs a SaaS app and he built this feature that they're going to use internally. It's its own little app. And he said, well, I might as well just start selling this because we're using it internally. And I said, so if you do that, now you need a separate domain. He said, yeah. And I said, so now you need to build SEO domain authority on that. Now you need to write copy for that. Now you need to have someone support that. You need to have someone sell it. You need documentation for it. You need to have maybe a chat widget. You need on and on and on and on. And selling a SaaS app for $100 is not so hard, but all the stuff around it that we don't think about, and then the maintenance, and then the add-ons, and then they found a bug, and then the API you're using breaks, and da-da-da-da. So you're not doing that, but it is a common thing for folks to think having separate things is a challenge, is what I'll say. And it's an anti-pattern to I can't think even like Intercom, which is, what a $1 billion valuation, several $1 billion valuation, huge with thousands of customers. They don't have 3 separate, they kind of have 3 separate products like this. Finally, now they're a suite, but they didn't start that way. Back in the day, Intercom started as this very svelte, small thing. And we see a lot of companies that get to these, hundreds of millions in revenue, and they are like, think about Moz, which is like a kind of a suite of SEO tools. I mean, it does, it has functionality similar, like you're like a suite right now, but you've broken those into separate products, or it feels like separate products with separate subscriptions. And I think, in my opinion, that's going to not treat you well in the long term. I haven't seen anyone do this successfully.
Okay.
This early.
So, okay. And so in your mind, if I were to stack them as like a tiered, like you have feature A, no matter what you pay, feature B costs you Y more, feature C, but it's all just presented as the same tool that would be same app that would be substantially.
Yep. That's what I would think about. And I'm trying to I'm trying to think of an example, like if Ahrefs does this, where, yeah, like if you go to ahrefs.com, I mean, they have a site explorer, they have a keyword explorer, they have site audit, they have rank tracker, they have content explorer. Those are their tools, but they have those in just a tools menu on their homepage, and it all goes down the side. And I would have to look. That's just in terms of the marketing. In terms of the actual pricing, let me see if they tier. Their pricing is actually, yeah, they have feature gating, $99, $179, $399, and then the agency plan is $1,000 a month. So they are doing more of what I'm saying. But to your point earlier of, I'm trying to now think through, you have these three kind of tools or feature sets, right? You have automation for single sellers, which that isn't for agencies, correct?
Yeah,
that's a separate thing.
That's a feature.
Okay. So for me, that would be your base, whether it's that's your low cost plan, right? Is like, hey, you're Rob Walling, I'm running ads myself for Start Small, Stay Small. And I spend as much as I can, and it's like hundreds of dollars a month. It's not very much money because just the category itself doesn't spend that much. So am I willing to pay $200 a month for a tool to help me with it? No, because I'm not spending that much, but I'd be willing to pay $30, 40, 50 in that range, right, to help me. And that I think could be your solo plan on your pricing plan. And then the next one up, is like the small micro agency, the small agency plan. And then there's the big agency plan, right? And these go to $200 and $500 or $900 or whatever you decide on, whatever you decide on the pricing. And I think from there, so that's how I would think about it, right? And whether, like, tell me though, because I get your thinking of, I don't want it to climb. I wanted people to be able to add on as desired, add a module, add this module, right? So you could have, and what I'm saying is counter to that, right? I'm saying you do build in steps where, like, maybe you don't get the reports until the big agency, right? You get the PPC software on that middle tier, but the top tier is the only one with reports or something like that. What do you think about that?
I'm sort of mentally doing the math on like what my current like monthly revenue would be if I did a version of that, and it would be lower, right? And so it's hard to reconcile that. Like, I know in theory that advice is, when you say it's anti-pattern, 100%. I think the problem I have is that in a lot of the tiered platforms that I subscribe to, there is a clear linear progression. Like, the size of your business, you definitely want thing B more the more you grow, and thing C, right? Like, you want, if you've got a family, you probably want a two-door car, and then a three-door car, and then a minivan. I don't know how many kids you're having, right? Whereas these features, they don't have there's not a clear sense of value across the potential clients. Like, some people, you say, hey, we can do automation, blah, blah, blah. Like, I have no interest in that. Like, it's just a non-starter. So to make that the second level tier is like, well, now they will have a level of dissatisfaction if they have to pay one tier past that to get the monitoring, or that sort of thing. It's a harder. I hear your point. And I think that I could definitely do it better. It just, since there's not a clear, equal sense of like valuation on the feature set in that marketplace, it would be hard for me to find a way to sequence the tiering in a way that would work for everybody. And I think what I'd end up with is people paying for things they don't want, which is, rough.
Yes, but that's SaaS, right? I mean, like, that's just the way it works. Like, someone's always paying for, we had tiers when I ran an email service provider called Drip, and up to 2,500 subscribers was $50, and up to 5,000 subscribers was $100. So when someone hit 2,501, they were paying $100. So they were paying for subscribers they weren't using, in essence. But that's SaaS. Like, that's just how this model works. I would be careful not to try to over optimize. I like how you're thinking about it. But I think I think longer term, it's just not going to matter. And I think you need, I think in your shoes, I would lean in towards trying to, I think the simplification of your platform and your pricing is worth more than trying to make sure no one's paying for, then, trying to make sure no one's paying for any feature they aren't using, because all of us are used to using feeds. I'm sorry, I'm reading Xander's audio feed is live thing, but all of us are used to using SaaS apps where we just don't use some of the features. I certainly am. The other thing I want to say is I think you could, I've never seen this done, so it's unorthodox, but what you could do is go back to where I had your first, second, and third. You had the solo plan, micro agency, and agency. Maybe you do the solo plan, which is your it's your solo tool. Then you have two middle tiers that are effectively close to the same price, or they use your existing pricing, and it's one tier is only reports, one tier is the PPC software itself, and then you have a fourth tier that is everything, and that's the most expensive. Okay. So if you really want to do, again, I haven't seen someone do that, because then it's not a progression from left to right. It's kind of an add-on thing. I'd be interested. Yeah, no. You know what I mean? You could still have the pricing the same. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that seems clear. And I think, your point is 100% spot on. I think there's a lack of clarity there is going to be a problem for potential for clients, and also supporting three wholly functional separate things would be funky in the future. Yeah, no, that's a great note.
That's the thing. And the code, is this a single code base though?
Yes.
Okay, good, because that makes it easier. So my gut feel is that longer term, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. My gut is that longer term, one or two of these will win out, and that one or two aspects of this product will become the need, the need that everybody's trying to fill, and churn on that will be low. You'll have a lot of pricing power in terms of being able to charge more for it, and it will just become the obvious leader. Usually it's unusual for a company to have multiple products or multiple kind of main features like this and not have one of them be 70 or 80% of the revenue, and thus really requiring, should get 70 or 80% of the effort. But right now, I think you said of these two, the reports and the PPC software, are they effectively even?
Yeah, well, so the reports are overwhelming, or they're the largest chunk on some level per client. But this third feature, which isn't even on the landing page yet, which I only recently sort of selling to clients as they onboarded, is now 50% of the revenue, right? So like two people have heard about it, and my last client signed on at $1,300 a month because that feature, which is which is the monitoring essentially, was compelling enough for him. So by revenue, the third feature is 33% of the revenue, if only 10% of the clients are using it, if that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah, and revenue is what's important in that respect. So that's a fourth item then. That's the monitoring.
It's not on the landing page yet. Yes, correct.
Cool. Yeah, and again, if you go back to the way I would approach it would be that monitoring would be the highest tier. If people are paying $1,300 a month for it, they should probably get everything else, and it's just a high tier that includes all the other stuff. I'm trying to think of a model though, because I'm trying to think of any examples who truly do an add-on the way you're talking about, which is to come in and just pick and choose. And I can't think of anyone who's done that. Can you think of a SaaS app?
Yeah, the one that I actually saw it from, it's an app I use. I consume one of their APIs. They're not a huge app. They have, I think it's called HTML to PDF. It's like they have got like 2 or 3 different APIs you can subscribe to, and you pay differently for whichever one you're subscribed to, essentially. And it was using their webpage. I was like, oh, that's a good way to like bring the price down essentially and give people what they need. And that's who I'm mirroring.
And I'm trying to look for them, but of course it's like impossible to find. Yeah. I would be careful copying someone like that, who is not, I guess I'll say the design patterns of doing these things is pretty well trodden. And the fact that we can't think of anyone else except for HTML to PDF is risky.
It's not the name of it. What's the name of this API? I'll have to find it in a second. But yeah.
No,
I Xander will tell you I've made every mistake in the process of building this. So
We all do,
they
man.
wouldn't say
Yeah.
yeah.
You're not supposed to be doing this perfect. I mean, geez, still making big mistakes these days. Yeah. So, okay. I mean, I like what you got here, and the fact that people are willing to pay, I see your like lowest price is like $99 a month and then $1,300 a month. I mean, you've obviously tapped into something that is of real value. I think as you start to market this, because onboarding is a big deal, and I agree, you should dig in, get that fixed so that you don't want it to be a problem when new customers, want to start a trial or want to hang out. And then I think you've built something really interesting already, and you've built something that people want already. I would encourage you to stop building and start marketing and selling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Unless it's like if you have people not churning and using this, because you're a developer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And to us, every nail is a piece of code, right? We can fix everything with code. Do you feel like resistant? A lot of developers I'm a developer too, right? I haven't written production code in like 8 years, but I still think everything should be solved by building features, and it's just not the right way to do it. Do you feel resistant to wanting to market and spread the word and like putting hanging up your coding boots for a month at a time?
I did before the first person started paying, essentially, and I think the initial sort of like when people started using the L word, like I love this, like it was like like the validation that comes from that became sort of intoxicating, for lack of a better word. And so now there is a part of me that it's like, hearing people love what you've toiled over for months and months. It makes it easier, but before that first kind of like pivot point of like going from an idea to a real business, I was definitely resistant. I still have a hint of resistance because it's not as, the nail metaphor. Like it's, as a developer, when something's broken, you know exactly what to do, more or less. You're like, okay, this is what I need to do to execute this. Marketing still has a little bit of a, I don't know. And if it were a clear, and so the ambiguity surrounding that makes it less appealing, but making money makes it more appealing.
That's what I was going to say. It'll always, it's always experiments, right? I mean, we have companies coming into Tiny Seed doing, the range is big, but let's say 15, 20, 30,000 a month, who are still like, I kind of have one marketing approach that's kind of working and things are starting to work, So, I mean, and as you get bigger and try to discover that second approach and that third approach, then build those flywheels, there's always that ambiguity. So I would really, really encourage you, first you have to build something people want and that solves a problem and that they're willing to pay for. And that is so hard. And as you know, you've been trying to do it for years, it sounds like, and seems to me, based on what I'm hearing, with zero churn and people paying $100 to $1,300 a month, and at 3K MRR, after, I guess it's 90 days, March, April, May, June. Yeah, you've been live about 3 months. That's really an interesting start.
April 1st, March 31st. So
April 1st, okay. April,
I just don't like saying April 1st because it feels spooky to say it's like,
you launched on April Fool's Day. Yeah. But I mean, that I would be looking at how can I get, once onboarding's fixed, right? How can I get more people through the door? And that's going to be marketing and sales. But you built you've gotten to the point where it's pretty hard to get to, right?
I have no idea. I have no frame of reference. So like, I don't know if I should be like pumping my fist or like slitting my wrist. I don't know where I'm at on that scale.
I feel like if churn is that low and people are saying they love it, that is unusual this early. Okay. Usually people come in and say, I wish it did more. Well, I can kind of use this other tool for that. Why would I pay this much for this? Because I can hack MailChimp and Zapier to do, that's usually what happens. And you get a small trickle who stick around until you hit that point where people say, holy crap, this is really cool. And it sounds like you may have stumbled upon the holy crap, really cool a lot earlier than most. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's, early if you start from 2021, later if you start from 2016, it just depends on
5 years to overnight success. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, Phil, we're at time. Thank you so much for joining me today. Actually,
I have to say something. It's actually super important to me, and I want to say at the top. So I have to thank you. I don't know if you're aware of this. If you go to YouTube and type in interviews with SaaS founders or SaaS talks or whatever, the number of pages you have to scroll down to see a Black person or a woman or any of the kind of historically excluded or underrepresented, however you want to phrase it, groups, you have to go page and page and page and page. You have spoken to a number of people that fall into that category, right? And it is so refreshing, and it is like so nice, because as a person who is like, if I get asked a question by a person on the street, it is not about my onboarding strategy. It is like, do you know where I can get some weed? And maybe I do, but that's not the question I want to be known for, right? You are breaking, like you're like the NAACP of SaaS interviews. It is so refreshing, and you are doing like good work in that space. Whether or not you're consciously aware of it, you are absolutely doing it. So like, if nothing else, I want to thank you personally for that. It was, you had Cortland on, you had John on, you had Asia on, you had me. It's really nice. So,
thank you. Really appreciate that. It is definitely a team effort. Producer Xander is heavily involved, and we have been for about a decade. Well, I guess it was 2012. Yeah, when we realized, wait, why is everybody in the room? Why are there no people of color? Why are there no women? Our first MicroConf, 100 people, there were 3 women. We're like, this is a problem. So it is deliberate. The focus of trying to do it. We have certainly made progress. We're certainly not where we want to be yet, but I really appreciate you bringing that up, because it's absolutely something that we spend a lot of time thinking about.
Yeah, I'm happy to, because it'd be a hard thing for you to like bring up, right? Like, hey guys, I don't know if you know this, but we here at MicroConf, like, you can't do that. So I'm happy to do that for you. So thank you. Yeah, that's great.
And thank you, sir. So you are Phil McCarty on Twitter. I'm at Rob Walling. Thanks everybody for joining us today, and I'll see you again in a couple weeks. Music rocking. We thank you as always. Hey, and at Stripe on Twitter. If you haven't already, head to youtube.com/MicroConf, hit the like and subscribe button, and get notified about our future live videos. Next time, in just 2 weeks, we have another guest on the show. I don't think we have anyone booked yet. So thanks again to Stripe, and thank you for joining us.